38 weeks to go, gonna rule this game. I'm the boss, yeah, I'll take fame with my fantasy team. Gonna rise to the top, no one can stop me. Gonna make them drop.
Hello everybody, and welcome to 38 Weeks to Go, your weekly podcast about fantasy football. Gameweek 36 is done. There are only 2 game weeks left. Can you believe that? 2 game weeks left. How did the season go by so quickly? If you have made it this far, well done. You only have 2 weeks left to go. How was Gameweek 36 for you? With a global average of 71, that was a really good game week. Probably the second best game week after the double game week we just had. Speaking of double game weeks, are you guys ready for game week 37? But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's take a look at game week 36. There were 5 clean sheets and very many high-scoring games. Actually, it was quite surprising. There were 5 clean sheets and at least 4 games where 4 goals or more were scored. Let me start off with the marquee game. Liverpool 4, Spurs 2. I'll be honest, I didn't quite know how this game would go. I wasn't even sure if Salah would start. But start he did and score he did. Not only that, he looked like the Salah we've had before he went away for Africa Cup. 1 goal, 2 assists. He was the best player on the pitch. Very influential in Liverpool and everything that happened. He had a goal. Robertson scored a goal. Gakpo scored a really good header from a nice cross from Elliott. Elliott had the goal of the game. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. Gakpo starting ahead of Nunez. I wonder if this is going to be a thing now. Well, for the next 2 games. But he was good. A goal and an assist. I'm not sure what's happening with Spurs nowadays. Everybody hammers them and then lets them score a goal or 2 just so they can go home with something like a participation trophy of sorts. Richarlison scored and Son scored. Brennan Johnson had the assist and Richarlison had the assist for Son's goal. Liverpool dominated the game and Spurs need the season to just end. I think they've checked out already. Gakpo had the 3 bonus points. Elliott had 2 and Robertson had 1. For a marquee game, it was a bit of a letdown. Spurs are really not stopping anybody. I don't know what people are thinking in terms of the Man City game, but it's a mistake to hope that Spurs will be the team to stop Man City. Then again, I am the fool that said Man City might be beaten by Wolves. Manchester City 5. Wolves 1. I was pretty wrong on that one. But I did say the Korean guy would score, and he did. That he did, with an assist from Bellegarde. The real story, however, was Haaland, Haaland, with 4 goals. 4 goals. He saw Isak and Palmer were coming for his title, and he said, nope, I'm just going to score all of the goals. Thank you very much. 4. I don't know about you guys, but every time Haaland scores, his goals are difficult, but they look so easy. They look like it comes natural to him. Like it wasn't hard for him to score 4 goals. And effing City cannot keep a bloody clean sheet. So, Haaland 4 goals. Very simple looking goals. Rodri had 2 assists. Foden had 1 assist. Vardiol had the other. And by the other, he was taken down. And that was one of the penalties. Oh yeah, it must be said he did score 2 penalties. Of course, he had the 3 bonus points. Rodri had 2 bonus points. And Vardiol had 1. So those are 2 games in which 6 goals were scored. Those were tied for the highest scoring games of the weekend. Chelsea had the 3rd highest scoring game week. They are quietly in really good form. They beat West Ham 5-0. The Newcastle-Burnley game also had 5 goals. The most disappointing game of the weekend, or maybe the most surprising would be more accurate, would be Manchester United 0 Crystal Palace 4. I won't lie, I really wanted Mateta to score, and so I was really happy when he did. Olise was the best player on the pitch. Like I've said many times before, when that boy and Eze are on, there's pretty much nothing the other team can do. They just cause so many problems. For his first goal, he just literally picked the ball in the midfield, ran through everybody and scored. Of course, it has to be said Manchester United have no defenders currently, and it showed. They were punished. 1, 2, 3, 4. Olise scored first, then Mateta, then Mitchell, and then Olise again. Munoz had 2 assists, and Richards had another assist. Olise had 3 bonus points, Richards had 2, and Munoz had 1. Let me tell you, I was so disappointed because in this game, I had these 2 keepers. Henderson was on the bench, and Onana was my keeper. I don't know what I was thinking, and when I read to you a few stats later, it will confirm that I really didn't know what I was thinking. So when I look at my team, I'll be honest, I'm not happy with it, but I'm not sad. The biggest problem I had was that I chose the wrong captain. Obviously, if you did not choose Haaland, you chose the wrong captain. Well, if you chose Salah, you're fine. But I chose Havertz. I just thought they would beat Bournemouth, which they did. But I thought it would be more convincing, and I thought he would have a bigger part to play. He got 10, which on a regular game week isn't too bad. But when Haaland gives you 42, that differential hurts. But I'm really happy that I did have Haaland because many people didn't. I brought Haaland in, and I brought in Foden. I was preparing for the next game week, which is going to be a double game week, so I removed Solanke and Eze because I wasn't sure if he would play. It worked out because I lost 4 points and I got 20-something. Something else that went my way is that Bruno Fernandes did not play. He missed his first game, and it meant that Gordon, who was on my bench, who I benched because he doesn't perform away, came on and gave me 6 points. I had a very beautiful bench of 0, 1, and 0, meaning that I mostly did my best. My goalkeeper is White Hats because he got 6 and Onana got 2. But I mostly did well. I got 73 points. The average was 71, so I barely made it. Now, looking at the top performers of the week, I will read out the top 5 of them. With 4 goals, it's a no-brainer. It is Haaland. Number 2 will be a bit of a surprise. Nicholas Jackson, 16 points. He is finishing the season really well. Right in time for contention for the double game week. He was tied with Olise, who finished with 16 points as well. In 4th position, we had Callum Hudson-Odoi, who had 15 points. At 4.7, that's a really great return. 5th, and not last, was Rice, 14. He has had an amazing season. Now, let's look at the keepers. The top 5 keepers were Olsen, who got 12, Flecken, who got 10, tied with Muric. Both Olsen and Muric saved a penalty. Raya was 4th, he got 6, along with Verbruggen, Petrovic, Henderson, and Leno. They all got 6 clean sheets. When it comes to defenders, Munoz from Crystal Palace was the top performer, tied with Robertson. They both had 13 points. Mitchell from Crystal Palace got 12 points. 4th and 5th, so Thiago Silva and Richards tie with 11 points. When it comes to midfielders, I'll read the top 5 and then people who got 10 or above. So, Olise was a top performing midfielder. He had 16 points. Callum Hudson-Odoi had 15 points. Declan Rice had 14 points. Noni Madueke and Salah were tied with 13 points. Harvey Elliott got 12. Saka, Rodri, and Jacob Murphy got 10. As has been the case, midfield rocks. When it comes to strikers, Haaland, 21 points. Nicholas Jackson, 16. Cody Gakpo with 12. Adebayo with 9. And Calvert-Lewin with 8. He has been sneaky good as well. And now for some facts. And news. Phil Foden has won the Player of the Year. He has had a great season. Congratulations to him. David Raya has become the Golden Glove winner, which means basically he kept the most clean sheets, which is 14. He is the first keeper to win it in 8 years for Arsenal, since Petr Cech, which is surprising to me because I thought Cech was not good at Arsenal. But the facts speak differently. With the 4-0 loss to Crystal Palace, Manchester United, for the first time in their history, have lost 13 games in a single Premier League season. So Alex was amazing. Man United's worst finish in the last 10 years was their 7th place finish under David Moyes in 2014. They had 64 points that season. They cannot reach that total this season. Manchester United need a net positive 3 goals from the remaining 3 games, including versus Arsenal, to avoid a negative goal difference for the first time since 1989-1990. Manchester United have now conceded 81 goals in all competitions, the most since 1977. Something very curious. Bruno Fernandes misses his first game ever through history. Can you believe that? He has played 832 games over 12 years and has never been absent through injury before. Talk about sturdy. And finally, in some lighter Manchester United news, Jose Mourinho is keen on returning to become Manchester United manager. But, as you can expect, they have no interest in signing him. Moyes will be leaving at the end of the season. His contract will not be renewed. Julian Lopetegui will be taking over. He has been confirmed as new West Ham manager. Unpopular opinion, Lopetegui is a quitter. It's like he's a Bielsa wannabe without being Bielsa. I don't know if that makes sense. I am not convinced that this is the last of the Moyes West Ham story. Over 500,000 managers had transferred out Mo Salah. How are you feeling? Well, I'm fine, but how are you? For the 7th consecutive season, Mo Salah passes 200 points. He is an FPL legend. Mo Salah becomes the first Premier League player to register 10 goals and 10 assists in 3 consecutive seasons. When I was in high school, I had a friend, and one of the things he used to tell me, he had very wild takes, but this is one of them that I can remember. He used to tell me, Nash, if you see an African footballer with a silly haircut, just know he's going to do nothing. Now, why do I bring this up? Ever since Nicholas Jackson cut his hair on April 25th, he has had 3 goals and an assist. Well, my boy Timo knows what he's talking about. That's all I can say. Nicholas Jackson has more non-penalty goals, 13, than Mo Salah, Kai Havertz, and Cole Palmer this season. He's not having the bad season we think he's having, even though the eye test tells us he's not. No Chelsea player reached double figures last season. This year, Chelsea have 2 in the names of Nicholas Jackson and Cole Palmer. The new boys have made an impact. While still on Chelsea, Cole Palmer has scored 21 goals now this season. He has more goals in his debut season than Diego Costa did. Diego Costa had 20. Since Erling Haaland joined Manchester City in the summer of 2022, he has scored 2 hat-tricks before halftime. The rest of the Premier League combined has only done this once. He was owned by 7 million this game week, captained by 4 million of those, and triple captained by 23,000 of those. And then you have the people like me who didn't even captain him. Just heartbreak and tears. His hat-trick this game week means he has 35 goals in all competitions this season. 9 hat-tricks in 2 seasons for Manchester City. That is some consistency. Haaland has more goals in 2 seasons at Man City than he did in 3 at Dortmund. In 2 seasons at Man City, he has scored 88 goals. In the 3, he had 86. Nottingham Forest tried to appeal for their points deduction, and it failed. So their point deduction still stands. And so they're still in it for the relegation battle. When it comes to the promotion race from the Championship, Leicester and Ipswich won promotion. Now, the playoff will see Leeds, Southampton, West Brom, and Norwich. I know there's one of us who's hoping for Leeds to come back, and let's hope it happens. Good luck. I have an unpopular opinion that I cannot hold. I cannot hold it any longer. I just have to share it with you guys. My unpopular opinion is the penalty miss by Asamoah Gyan is the highlight of his career. Every other day we have to hear about him and that penalty miss, how he can't sleep, how this can't happen, how Oh, I'm beginning to believe a penalty miss is much more better than a penalty win. Because I think since Roberto Baggio, this must be the biggest penalty miss, because I am done with this penalty miss. But I still hear about it today. I promise you, if he had made that thing, we would never hear about it again. But because he missed, every other year, we will be hearing about it and we'll probably watch that same interview. When it comes to our group, there's a bit of pain. Now, the pain comes in the form of having Mo Salah and keeping him on your bench. Why are you running Pole Sana, Pole Bro? That must be painful. Then we have a double game week next week, and Mr. Leon used his triple captain this week. Maybe he has his chips left, who knows, but when you get 24 from 3, it's a bit painful. In our group, we had 7 different captains. 14 of you chose Haaland to be a captain. 7 chose Palmer. 2 chose Havertz. Another 2 chose Foden. 2 chose Isak. 1 chose KDB. And surprisingly, 1 person chose Salah. And I'll be honest, it was Alexander Mutune. And he looked like he's given up. He didn't even touch his team. So he lucked out by doing nothing. Except he doesn't have Palmer on his team still. So you win and you lose. Palmer is the most selected player in our league, with 23 managers choosing him. Followed by Isak with 19 selections. Then Foden with 15 selections. Haaland with 13. Saka with 12. Pedro Porro, White and Son with 10. Gabriel and Watkins 9. As you can imagine, after his performance, Haaland is the top player brought in this game week, which makes sense, he's playing twice. Then Nicholas Jackson, Vardiol, Gordon and Isak. Most players transferred out: Shar, Watkins, Solanke, Salah and Darwin Núñez. People are really done with Liverpool. It's quite surprising. Well, not really. The average points this week was 71. So if you got above 71, well done. Also 71 is very high. We must have done really well. Our league average was 80.1 points. So if you got over 80, you were really performing well. The highest points getter got 157 points. Wow. At the back, he had Henderson, who gave him 6. Gabriel, who gave him 7. Mitchell, who was his first sub, came on with 12 points. Robertson from Liverpool gave him 13. Saka had 10. Olise had 16. Palmer had 8. Rice had 14. Salah had 13. Nicholas Jackson had 16. Haaland, his captain, had 42. Well-rounded team. Before I go any further, I must shout out our manager of the month for April. It is no other than the impressive Tomi Oladipo, which shouldn't surprise you guys. He had like 136, 96, 96 and some other things. He had a total of 448 points. Goodness gracious me was number 2 with 412 points for the month. Hans Gruber Bonaji was 3rd with 388. Oh, that's surprising. Number 4 was Kimel Mitinda, who had 381 points. And number 5 was Vic City, who had 375 points this month. When looking at our table, LED was a top performer with 108 points. He was one of 4 people who got over 100 points this game week. Kimel Mitinda, manager of... If you look at that name, I can't even tell you what it is. Anyway, he got 103 points. Number 3 was Vic City, who got 102 points. Number 4 was Melvin Asakanya, who had 101 points. And then just at the boundary of 100, we have Solo Kamal, manager of Demori FC. He had 98 points. Looking at Ellie's team that got him 108 points, at the back, he had Petrovic from Chelsea, who gave him 6 from that clean sheet. Then he had Walker, who gave him 2. Dunk, who gave him 7. Brighton kept a rare clean sheet. Arsenal's Gabriel gave him 7. Then he didn't arrange his bench well, so Pedro Porro came on as his first sub and gave him 0, while he had Anderson from Crystal Palace and Johnson from Tottenham, who had 6 and 5 respectively. In the midfield, he had Son, who had 7, Palmer, who had 8, Gordon, who had 6. Then his attack was really strong. Isak, his poorest performer, with 7, Nicholas Jackson, his second best, with 16, and of course, Haaland with 42 points. Hey, this was the best week to choose Haaland. I have a triple captain in my pocket. Haaland is playing twice. Will I choose him as my captain? Probably. At the top of our table, there's been another lead change, and I am reluctant but low-key confident that this is now a 2-horse race between Simnanijua and Vic Nyadi. Vic City, they are finishing strong, 102 points, which gave them a total of 22.78. And this made them overtake, goodness gracious me, who got 87 points. He triple captained Palmer. He has 22.66, so he's 12 points behind. Mr. Mutune gave up or forgot to make his team. Sometimes those two are the same. He has 22.05 points. He is now 61 points behind number 2. But rather encouragingly, for Ellie, he's only 6 points away from him now. Ellie and Tommy have had a really great end to the season. They've been really strong. Those 108 points made Ellie D take number 4 with 21.99, and that took him 11 points ahead of Tommy Oladipo, who got 63 points. And somebody who has stopped running is Mr. Leon Mortier. He got 56 points. He got 21.78, so now he is 10 points behind Tommy. And now 20 points away from him is Melvin. And 9 points away from Melvin is Mato, who was 21.42. And then 3 points behind him is Solo at number 9. And 17 points behind him is Mr. Brian Rutere at number 10. So between number 7 and number 10, actually from number 4 to number 10, it's clear that there is still something's going on. At the bottom of the table, you won't believe this, Jeremiah Obiri got 82 points. That's what happens when you have Haaland as your captain. Haaland maximalist. And second last was Melvin Kathrima, who had 75 points. Because Fernandes is his captain, but Fernandes didn't play. So Haaland is his vice captain. And then third from bottom got 80 points. So the bottom, they really tried. Now, the race for dead last is not quite over. Jeremiah Obiri is still hanging in there. He has 1570, while Melvin has 1597. And the funny thing is, if Fernandes played, we would have been talking about a new number last. Of course, now, it must be said in context, Jeremiah and Melvin both are in the 1500s, while the third last is in 1800s. So they are bringing down our average, and they're also just competing with each other. They're not competing with us. It's like they're in the championship. 17 over 25 of us got above 71. Well done. Let's keep this going until the end. Now, looking forward to next week, this coming game week, we have our final double game week of the season. This game week is going to settle pretty much everything in our table, especially when it comes to the top, especially if the people hit well. I have a triple captain to spare, and I'm sure many of you have something left, or at least I hope you don't, because I really want to overtake some of you. I'm bored of getting 100 and not moving. So I'm hoping that you guys have finished your chips. But anyway, this is it. if you have a chip, this is it. This is it. Like, this is it. Just in case you were wondering, this is it. So, let's get into it. The game week will begin on Saturday, so it's not going to be Friday or anything like that. And it will kick off with Fulham versus Manchester City. Last time out, Fulham drew with Brentford, and that was a bit of a surprise. I was here telling guys to watch out. It'll be 3 goals, but nope. They kept a clean sheet. They say records are meant to be broken, but I'm really hoping that this is not one of those occasions, because I need Haaland to score 4 goals again, both against this team and against Spurs. I am humbly targeting 8 goals from Haaland. Guys, it's okay to dream. Everybody has their own needs. As you can imagine, Fulham do not have a great record against Manchester City. They have not beaten them in their last 18 games. In fact, their most recent encounter in September saw Man City win 5-1, with Haaland having a hat-trick. That is literally all I want. Now, of course, if you're going to choose a Manchester City player, you are really gambling with a defender who won't keep a clean sheet. Unless it's Vardiol. Vardiol has been amazing. If you're going to choose a Manchester City defender, choose Vardiol. And if you're not, choose Haaland. And then after that, just either have both KDB and Foden in your team, or just try your luck, because you know one of them is going to play twice and one of them isn't. Which one? Bleh. Or they might both play only one game, trusting Pep. And he has nothing to play for, but he'll still rotate them for no good reason. For Fulham, I don't even know what to say now. I'm just looking at these fixtures, and it goes back to 2010, and they haven't beaten them since 2010. Like, as far as this record goes, wow, that's a bit wild. So basically, I'm saying, put your eggs in the Manchester City basket. I'm not going to recommend any Fulham players, but you just put your usual players. But actually, just don't. This is the last double game week. Choose players who are playing twice. Just go in. That's it. Just go ham. Make sure everybody's playing twice. Don't choose Fulham players. I'm not even going to recommend anyone who's not playing twice. Bournemouth versus Brentford. Brentford have been tough to beat of late. They've only got 1 loss in their last 5 matches. Bournemouth have 2 losses in their last 5 matches. In their most recent 5 encounters, Brentford have won 2, drawn 2, and lost 1. So, Brentford are favourites for this encounter. It also seems like they haven't been scoring of late, so you are better off investing in their defenders if you are going to be in this game. So maybe Flecken has been getting points of late. Maybe Pinnock or Ayer or Reguilon. For Bournemouth, you have Solanke, Kluivert, maybe even Senesi. However, none of these teams are playing twice, so please don't invest in them. Everton versus Sheffield. This is easy if you want a clean sheet. You just get your Pickford and your Tarkowski on your Braithwaite and you're done. And Dominic Calvert-Lewin. That's it. Now, most people tend to have a great record against Sheffield, but Everton are not such a team. They have 1 draw, 1 win, 1 loss in the last 3 encounters. So maybe this game isn't as straightforward as it looks. Even their most recent game has Everton drawing 2-2, and the game before that, they were beaten 1-0. So it might not be the kind of game you think it is, but I still back Everton to win this game. I can't imagine that you'd want to get into Sheffield players in this fixture, but just for due diligence, Brereton Diaz, Archer, Amihodzic, and Bogle. Everton have been unbeaten at home recently in the last 4 games, so they will be favourites. Sheffield haven't kept a clean sheet in 17 games now. They just can't defend their goal. And then on top of that, they haven't won a game in 12 matches now. So, I don't know. It's not looking good for them. And they've already broken the record, so now they're going to go down with the most goals ever conceded. They're probably happy that Everton don't score too many. Newcastle versus Brighton. Now, Brighton are not in great form. Yes, they won the last game, but Aston Villa were trash. Aston Villa were done. And it was just like we were talking about the other week. Europe just messes you up. And now they're playing in Europe again. So basically, I'm saying you can't take Brighton's victory against Aston Villa as a sign that they have recovered. They just did what they were supposed to do. So in their most recent fixtures, Newcastle and Brighton have drawn twice, Brighton have lost twice, and Brighton have won one. Newcastle are slight favourites for this game, and they are at home, so Gordon and Isak will perform. Gordon and Isak will be playing twice. So there's every reason to be hopeful of returns. Now, last time out, Newcastle beat Burnley 4-1. Isak missed a penalty, and that was a bit painful. But they were dominant. That was a great away performance, uncharacteristic of them. And now they're home, so this is hopefully something they will build upon. Brighton will be playing twice. And it's tough to pick on Brighton players, but they will be the ones that have the most differential. They are playing Chelsea and Newcastle. It's possible that they get 2 clean sheets. It's possible that they beat both of these teams. You can't rule them out, even though their form is trash. It is unlikely, but not impossible. And so if you're a gambler, I guess you can see like Eli got Dunk in his team. He clearly used his wild card greatly when he used it like a few weeks ago. So if you're going to gamble in the defense, you will have Dunk. And then your choice is either João Pedro up top and Gross or a Dingrap or possibly Welbeck. But I will leave that up to you. I've already mentioned my Newcastle players, so I'll move on to the next fixture. But just to confuse you a little bit, Newcastle unbeaten at home in 7 matches. Brighton haven't won an away game in their last 7 matches. You're welcome. Next matchup is Tottenham versus Burnley. Now, Tottenham have 2 games. One against Burnley, which should be easy, but their form is trash. So there's nothing easy, and Burnley are still fighting. And they have Man City in their second game. So if you're choosing their players, like for example, I'm really tempted to get Romero because if somebody scores from their team, it's really him, Son, or Richarlison who will score. So those are the only 3 players I'm even considering from Spurs. So they are a bit like Brighton in that their form is not the best, but these 2 games are winnable. They have good records against these 2 teams. It really is a weird thing to say, but Spurs genuinely have a good record against Manchester City at home. But I'm moving ahead of myself. In the Spurs game against Burnley, I've already told you my players. If you're going to choose a Burnley player, which you shouldn't, because they're not playing twice, you should choose Brun Larsen, Odegaard, Fofana, or Foster. Tottenham have won their last 3 games against them. They are the better team. Burnley haven't kept a clean sheet in 19 games, so they're even worse than Sheffield. And so the odds are Spurs will score, it's just a matter of who. But if you're looking at recent form, Spurs have lost 4 of their last 5 games. Although to be fair to them, they lost to Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, and Newcastle. Those are tougher teams, better teams than they are. And Burnley have drawn 2, won 1, lost 2. They're in good form still. West Ham versus Luton. West Ham will be motivated in theory because this is going to be Moyes' last game. So this is his farewell game. The last time these 2 met, Zuma and Jared Bowen were the 2 goal scorers. They have both been in good form, so I wouldn't hesitate to recommend them. I would also add Antonio and Paqueta to that list. However, if you're even choosing one West Ham player, what are you doing with this double game week? We only have 2 weeks left to go, guys. This is desperation time. I think Luton are pretty much done by this point, but they still have that spirit. But the results are just not coming. Anything good that will come from them will come through Morris, Barkley, Ogbene. They are both in bad form. In the last 5, West Ham have lost 3, drawn 2. In Luton's last 5, they've won 1, drawn 1, lost 3. Luton haven't kept a clean sheet in 16 matches. So coming off that 5-0 hammering by Chelsea, this might be a good time for them to rediscover their form and give Moyes a send-off that he will be happy with. I still don't know why they're letting him go. I think he's done a commendable job. And they are currently 9th on the table. And that is literally their position. 9th for West Ham is perfect. I mean, Manchester United, Chelsea, Newcastle, Tottenham, Aston Villa, Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal. You can only really make a case that maybe Aston Villa should be their peers, but that's about it. And that would be a far-fetched argument. They should have renewed the contract and continued supporting him. When you're number 10 with the club that he has, that is okay. Aiming to be number 10 is not a sign of low ambition. But anyway, I can go on for a long time. Let me just move on. Wolves versus Crystal Palace. I will be reluctantly selling Mateta because I'm bringing on Nicholas Jackson. But Crystal Palace have been great over the last 4-5 games. They have 4 wins and 1 draw. Outside Arsenal and Man City, they probably have the best form in the Premier League. Wolves have 3 losses, 1 win, 1 draw. Wolves haven't kept a clean sheet in 11 games. And that tells me that Olise, Eze, Mateta will eat. One of them at least. And they might even get a clean sheet to boot. None of them are playing twice, so I'm going to be getting rid of Mateta, like I said earlier. Ait Nouri will be also somebody I'll be selling to get into a defense. I'm not sure if it's going to be Chelsea or Spurs yet, but I'll be getting into a different team's defense. Cunha and the Korean guy are the best bets for goals from Wolves. The recent record has Wolves losing 4 out of 5 games, and the other one they won. So Crystal Palace are better than them in this fixture. But not only that, they're in better form right now, and their new manager has them playing such great football right now. So it's hard for me to see Wolves coming out with something in this fixture. Chelsea versus Nottingham Forest. The last time they played, Chelsea were beaten 1-0 by Nottingham Forest in September, with Elanga scoring the only goal of the game. The game before that, they drew 2-2. Sterling had 2 goals, Awoniyi had 2. The game before that, they had drawn 1-1. Aurier and Sterling. So it seems that Sterling is the main man in this fixture. But none of us are going to be choosing him. It's going to be Mr. Cole Palmer and Nicholas Jackson. Now, this is where you wonder, does the previous head-to-head matter? Chelsea in the last 5 games have won 2, drawn 1, and lost 2. And they lost to Arsenal and Man City. So those are respectable losses. Nottingham Forest have lost 3, drawn 1, won 1. So Chelsea are in better form, but Forest are desperate because of the looming relegation battle. It's not over. And that's something that Luton will be fighting for as well. If you're going to choose a Nottingham Forest player, don't choose a defender. You have to go for Odoi, Elanga, Wood, Morgan Gibbs-White. Choose 2. But I wouldn't encourage you to get into this fixture because Chelsea are playing twice. You would want Cole Palmer or Mr. Nicholas Jackson, or one of the defenders. You can choose Thiago Silva, Trevor Chalobah, or you can go with Petrovic. I don't think Nottingham Forest will take it the way they did last time. Chelsea were it was very early September. They are a much more different team right now. They're actually even contending for Europe. Isn't that wild? As in they are 7th on the table. On Sunday, we'll have the marquee fixture, which will be Man U and Arsenal. Classic fixture. Although, in this case, Man U are not favourites and it's not even close. Just listen to the defenders who are out for Manchester United. Shaw, Varane, Martinez, Alex Telles, Lindelof, Maguire, Malacia, Brendan Williams. It looks like only Dalot, Wan-Bissaka and Johnny Evans are available, and that's why I guess Casemiro has been playing centre-back. Now, with the way Arsenal have been playing of late, Arsenal are the only team I would recommend you to keep, even if you're having double game week players. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they win this game 5-0. But being a game of such rivalry with the title on the line, Manchester United tend to be party poopers, but I don't think they can be. But when it's a one-off game like this, and there's pride on the line and all those kind of things, This is the kind of game where surprise could happen. But with so many centre-backs out of commission, you saw what happened last season when Arsenal lost Saliba. And it was just one man. Now look at all these men that these guys have lost. They can't defend. No wonder they've been conceding so many shots on goal. I think this has made me soften my stance a bit on Mr. Ten Hag because he hasn't had his full team available to him. Plus, it's also more fun for us if he still stays in as the manager. So for Arsenal, I know some of you have like Raya, Saliba, and Gabriel. Just do what you're going to do. Just stick with what you know. They're not playing twice, but it's Arsenal. For Manchester United, Anthony has been a bright spot of late. They're playing twice, so you have to choose two players. I have Onana playing twice, and he's going to concede like 6 goals, so I'm really considering getting him out of my team. It seems like the most popular score in the recent fixtures is 3-1 to Arsenal, 3-2 to Arsenal, 3-1 to Man U, 3-1 to Arsenal, 3-2 to Man U. So there might be goals in this one, but that's what I said about Brentford and Fulham last week, so let's see what happens. Arsenal are definitely favourites for this fixture. Man United play twice. They play Arsenal and Newcastle. Not easy fixtures at all. On Monday, there will be Aston Villa versus Liverpool. Now, Liverpool will be well rested while Aston Villa will not be well rested. And how Aston Villa play will really depend on the outcome of the Europa League game. Or is it Conference League? Anyway, their game against Olympiacos. If they win and they go to the final, who knows? If they lose, who knows? And also, if you're banking on Aston Villa players, make your team after Thursday, after you know if anybody got injured. But also, these two teams are not playing twice, so I wouldn't encourage you to invest in them. As you heard a little earlier, more than 500,000 people have gotten off Salah. But mostly, people are just trying to make space for the double game week. This is the last hurrah. So, if you're not one of those people, Salah, Gakpo, Harvey Elliott seem to be in great form right now. For Aston Villa, Watkins, Leon Bailey, Diaby. Maybe Douglas Luiz, but he's been missing penalties of late, so I don't know how much stock to put in that. I wouldn't be surprised with any outcome in this game. If you tell me Liverpool will win, I can believe you. If you tell me Villa will win, I can believe you. If you tell me they will draw, I'll believe you. And then we move to Tuesday, where we'll be having Spurs versus Man City. Out of their last 7 fixtures, Man City have not beaten Tottenham at home. And by home I mean London Stadium, not the Etihad. Tottenham haven't kept a clean sheet in 8 matches. So maybe I will not be getting Romero, but we will see. Now the thing about this fixture is that you have to make up your mind early. So if you're getting your Romero, or your Son, or your Richarlison, or your Haaland, or your Foden, or your KDB, you have to make that considering these 2 games. You'll have to be thinking about what is the best decision for you. Probably only Haaland and Ederson will play twice unless Ederson got injured. Son, Richarlison will definitely play twice. Early on in the season, it seemed like Tottenham could play without wing-backs, but over the last few games, since Udogie, Ben Davies went out, it seems like they can't really play well, or rather defend well. Maybe it's a lack of pace, I'm not so sure what it is, but they've lost something. Spurs have history on their side and will be buoyed by that more than anything. And Arsenal fans will be turning into Tottenham fans. I might even captain Son. On Wednesday, we will have Brighton take on Chelsea. Apart from the Potter season where Brighton really hammered Chelsea both games, they haven't beaten Chelsea again since. So it is 2 wins for Brighton, and Chelsea have won their most recent 3 fixtures. By this time, you will have already chosen your players, but Chelsea will be favourites for this fixture. Brighton, you will know whether their game against Aston Villa was real, but by that time it will be too late because they'll already have played their earlier fixture. So you have to decide early whether this is a winnable game for Brighton. Chelsea will be favourites. The last game week of the double game week will see Man United play Newcastle. It will be an away game, so it may not be a great fixture for Newcastle, but Newcastle will have played Brighton at home and we're hoping that somehow there's a balance best outcome for Newcastle is to kind of have the last 2 game weeks again, where they won at home and won away. Their recent 5 games has seen Newcastle win 3, draw 1, and lose 1. They are slight favourites. I am going to be betting against Manchester United's defence and also be encouraged by Newcastle's recent uptick in form. And I'll be leaning towards Newcastle players for this game. I think at this point, because I don't want to lose too many points, I'm just going to keep Onana in my team and just have him get 4 points from making many saves and having 2. Now, we don't know if Fernandes will be back. His absence was really felt in the last game. Mount did not deputize for him in a respectable way, and it seems like they will need him. And I'm not so clear about what Fernandes' injury is. So I'm wondering if it's wise to keep him in my team. Man, you haven't kept a clean sheet in 9 matches. So I don't even know why I'm bothering having him. And by him, I mean Onana in my team. And with that will be all the games of the double game week. Now, when it comes to captain choices, there are going to be very many interesting choices here. For example, somebody can go with Gordon, somebody can go with Isak, someone will go with Fernandes. I mean, Jeremiah Obiri is going to be with Fernandes for sure. Someone may go Garnacho. I could see somebody saying João Pedro, or maybe even Gross. I could see somebody definitely going with Cole Palmer. That isn't a bad decision at all. I mean, they're playing Brighton and Nottingham Forest. Those are winnable games. Nicholas Jackson is looking good. Conor Gallagher would be a great differential. I could see somebody going with Haaland, Foden, or KDB. I could see somebody going with Son or Richarlison. Yeah. And then maybe I can see somebody going with an Arsenal player. And that's about it. And I'm sure you'll be hearing about somebody who triple captained Livramento, and Livramento kept a clean sheet, had 4 assists and 2 goals, and has 70 points. And just like, what? Is this person from the future? You know, fantasy is always like that. Anyway, this was a bit of a long one. I hope you are well. I hope the week goes well for you. We will see you on the pitch. 2 weeks left. Let's finish strong. Bye.